What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another Psych Reacts video. Today we are going to be looking inside the mind of Jeffrey Dahmer.
Afterwards, were you repulsed? Were you upset?
No, at the time it was almost addictive.
Out of his hotel room in a suitcase. Then he took it to his grandmother's house, where he cut up the body and put it in plastic garbage bags.
Also with that, he took the body from the hotel, hid it in a suitcase, and then took it to his grandmother's house to cut up, which means he had to have broken the bones of this boy to fit him in the suitcase. Unless the suitcase was just imaginably large, but he had to have broken the bones to fit the boy in the suitcase.
When you killed
Throwing
these
that out
men,
there.
afterwards, were you repulsed? Were you upset?
No, at the time it was almost addictive. It was almost a surge of energy. I wouldn't have to worry about any of their needs or anything. I just had complete control of the situation.
But Jeffrey Dahmer was out of control. The urge to kill had overpowered him. As police later learned, he wasn't satisfied with his victim's death. He wanted more.
Why did you photograph them?
It was my way of remembering their appearance, their physical beauty. I also wanted to keep if I couldn't keep them there with me whole, at least I felt that I could keep their skeletons.
So this has to do with trophies. So a lot of serial killers, not all of them, but a lot will collect one item from each kill. And what that is trophies. So his trophy was the photographs. If he couldn't keep the bodies in pristine condition and he couldn't keep the skeletons, his trophy was the pictures. That was his way of reliving each killing and maintaining control over these people.
When you killed these men, afterwards, were you repulsed? Were you upset?
No, at the time it was almost addictive. It was almost a surge of energy. I wouldn't have to worry about any of their needs or anything. I just had complete control of the situation.
So this relates back to the point I made earlier about the fantasies, the obsession, and the high. So he says that he did not feel repulsed or anything at the time because it was fulfilling his needs. Killing these boys and having complete control over them gave him a sense of relief, of pleasure, and the more he did it, the more he could feel that sensation.
This man with a quiet, almost shy demeanor became a master manipulator who was able to lure strangers he met at gay bars to his apartment. He was even able to con the police into returning a 14-year-old boy to him after neighbors called 911 upset that the child was in the street naked and bleeding. Dahmer convinced the police that he and the boy were simply having a lover's quarrel.
It's an intoxicated boyfriend of another boyfriend.
Well, how old was this child?
It wasn't a child, it was an adult.
After the police left, Jeffrey Dahmer murdered that boy. Conorak synthesome phone.
Damn. Imagine being those police that arrived and could have potentially saved that boy's life. But since Jeffrey had obtained skills of manipulation and charm, the police gave back the child to Jeffrey Dahmer. Imagine how those police feel after they found out what had happened and they found the boy's body and they knew who Jeffrey was. Imagine how they felt. They were so close to saving this boy's life, but Jeffrey talked them out of it. I don't know how he was able to convince them that the 14-year-old was actually of age, but that just goes to show the amount of master manipulation these types of killers can have.
Before you went out to pick up a man, was there any kind of ritual you went through?
I'd go to the nightclubs, drink, watch the striptease shows, And if I didn't meet anyone at the bars, I'd go to the bath clubs and meet someone there, offer them money, and we'd go back to the apartment, have a few drinks. I'd have the sleeping pill mixture already prepared. Person would drink it, fall asleep, and that's when they would be strangled.
So this was his MO. Every night he would go to the bar. He would try to find somebody. If he didn't, he would go to this other place, the bath something or other, and he would try to find somebody there, bring them back. The sleeping pill would already be in a drink, and he would give that to them. They'd fall asleep, and then he would strangle them. So this was kind of his MO, because he did this every time he went to go get somebody to kill.
Watching the movie Exorcist 3 was also part of his ritual. It put him in the mood for murder.
I felt so hopelessly evil and perverted that I actually derived a sort of pleasure from watching that tape.
Did you like feeling evil?
No, I didn't. But I had tried to overcome the thoughts, and it worked for a while, but eventually I gave in.
While Jeffrey Dahmer may say things today that make it seem like he understands what went on in his mind, he does not. All he can do is tell you what happened, but he cannot stop whatever it is that drove him to kill in the first place.
Do you still feel those same urges? Do you still feel that compulsion, that obsession?
I wish I could say that it just left completely, but no, there are times when I still do have the old compulsions.
So this became like an addiction for him. He wanted to continue fulfilling those urges, and every time he did, he got a feeling of reward, which is why he continued to do the killings. He said that he didn't want to feel evil, but he couldn't do anything to stop it. That is because the urges he had were too strong to overcome, and like I said, either they give in to it or they literally cannot stop thinking about it, and that's why they continue to kill. Jeffrey Dahmer did not want to fight the urge anymore, so he gave in, and that's why he continued killing. Some try to resist the urge, but they can't anymore, so they end up killing as well. But in this case, Jeffrey gave in because he didn't want to fight it anymore.
I started having these obsessive thoughts when I was about 15 and 16, and they got worse and worse.
What were your fantasies about?
They were sexual fantasies of control, power, complete dominance. They became reality.
So before he had that control being implemented into the killings, but then as he grew older, 15, 16, they started to evolve into a sexual idea.
Was there pleasure in that fantasy?
There was excitement, fear, pleasure, all mixed together.
Listen to him talk about the most unnatural things in the most matter-of-fact of ways. That's when you realize that none of it has touched him.
I was branching out. That's when the cannibalism started, eating of the heart and the arm muscle. It was a way of making me feel that they were a part of me.
So since he started the cannibalism and he wanted to eat parts of the people he killed to keep them close, that is tied in with the borderline personality disorder. Again, borderline personality disorder does not always reach that level of extremities, but in this case it did. The whole wanting to keep them close and eating them was because of the borderline personality disorder, because he did not want to lose his victims, and eating them would make him feel more attached to them because he is missing that fulfillment of attachment, so he feels the need to replace it by ingesting his victims.
At first it was just curiosity, and then it became compulsive. Then I tried to keep the person alive by inducing a zombie-like state. By injecting first dilute acid solution into their brain or hot water, and it never did completely work.
Could someone like you be stopped? Could you be helped?
No, I was dead set on going with this compulsion. It was the only thing that gave me any satisfaction.
Look how dead his eyes are, by the way. Like, there's no emotion whatsoever in his eyes as he's talking about the most grotesque things that could ever be done by a human. And look how blank his face is.
He became so warped by his evil impulses that he even took a victim's head with him to work at the Ambrosia chocolate factory.
I kept the mummified head and skull of one of the victims in a carrying case in my locker at work.
Were you almost flaunting it?
Yes, but that's how strong the compulsion was. That's how bizarre the desire was. I wanted to keep something of the person with me.
Now, she mentions, were you flaunting the fact that you kept getting away with this? And he says, yeah, but it's mainly because that's how powerful his obsession was. That's how powerful his need was for that attachment, but he couldn't get it normally. And again, that's where the whole borderline personality disorder comes in, because he feels the need for that attachment. His attachment ideas are so irrational, and that's why he wants to keep them close. He wants to fulfill that attachment in himself.
Jeffrey Dahmer exhibited some disturbing behavior early on. He began drinking heavily as a teenager, dropped out of college, was arrested for indecent exposure, disorderly conduct, and fondling a 13-year-old boy. Tragically, one of his murder victims would be that boy's brother.
Do you know what started it? Was there any kind of incident that you can remember?
To this day, I don't know what started it. And the person to blame is sitting right across from you. That's the only person. Not parents, not society, not pornography. I mean, those are just excuses.
His macabre 13-year crime spree finally ended when this man, Tracy Edwards, brought the police to the infamous apartment. Like the others, he had gone there with the promise of money.
He was listening to my heart, because at a point he told me he was going to eat my heart at that point. I hit him, and I ran.
What was the turning point for you that made you suddenly realize that you had done something terribly wrong, something you should be sorry for?
It was the night of the arrest. I have no memory of what happened during the 6 hours before the last victim ran out of the apartment. I heard a knock on the door, and the police were there with the last victim. They asked.
So she asked the question of, when did you start to feel like this is something you should be sorry for? He says the night of the arrest. Now, he doesn't mean he's sorry for the killings. Basically, he's saying that he's sorry he got caught.
Asked me where the key was to the handcuffs. My mind was in a haze. I sort of pointed to the bedroom, and that's where they found the pictures. And they yelled, "Cuff him." And I was handcuffed. And it was just the realization that there was no point in trying to hide my actions anymore. The best route was to help the police identify all the victims and just make a complete confession. Never understood it. There was no use trying to fight it because I couldn't rid myself of it. It was too powerful and persistent.
Do you dislike it?
Yes, it's caused a lot of problems for me. A lot of conflicts and unanswered questions.
The conflicts remain with him, and so do his compulsions. But in prison, he finally cannot act on his savage desires.
If you were out on the street now, would you still be committing the crimes?
Probably. If this hadn't happened, there's no doubt I probably would be. I can't think of anything that would have stopped me.
So he mentions that nothing else would have stopped him from committing these crimes. That is because the obsession he had was too strong to overrule. And it's kind of ironic because he did this because he wanted power over people. He wanted to have that control. But did he want that control over other people because he didn't have that control over himself? A lot of these questions can only be answered by one person, and that one person is Jeffrey Dahmer. But the only problem is he himself has no idea. He only feels this compulsion and this desire that he needs to fulfill. He doesn't know why, he just knows he needs to fulfill it. And that's why this turned into a serial killing. So that is going to do it for this episode of Psych Reacts. We have looked at the interviews of Jeffrey Dahmer and realized just how cold and distant he is from his own actions. The compulsion and obsession he felt was too strong for him to resist. If you are watching and enjoying the Psych Reacts videos, be sure to drop a like down below, hit that subscribe button, and turn on post notifications. We just hit 2,000 subscribers, so thank you guys so much for all the support. I truly appreciate it. And let's keep on going. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I will definitely be checking them all out. I do read them all, even if I don't respond to all of them. I do read them, and I like to see what your guys' insight is. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I truly appreciate it, and I will see you tomorrow. Peace!